5-2 win. Caulfield scores again. Suzuki scores again. 3 of 4 on the road trip. 6 of their last 7. Record of 7-4 under Marty St. Louis. And maybe some players who were supposed to get traded might not get traded after all. Oh, and by the way, someone started skating on Friday and Saturday. That's progress. We'll discuss with Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette and Hockey Inside Out coming up on Brunchin with Marinaro.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro. The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
And now a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Sports entertainment like no other. Brought to you by 8.6 Beer. Intense by nature.
And welcome. It's Brunchin with Marinaro, brought to you by 8.6 Beer. Of course, Intense by nature, the beer for those who follow their instinct and live their passions in order to make their mark. And joining me on this Sunday morning from the Montreal Gazette and HockeyInsideOut.com, Stu Cowan. Good morning.
Hey, Tony, how are you doing?
Very good. How are you?
I'm very good.
You know who's doing better than me?
The Canadiens.
Martin St. Louis. Huh?
What a
Proving
story.
the doubters wrong again.
What a story this has turned out to be. I mean, it's hard to believe this is the same team. I mean, that's 7 wins already under Martin St. Louis. They had 8 under Dominique Ducharme, and they're fun to watch. I mean, another example last night. They're a fun team to watch now. Even the games they've lost have been entertaining and they've been competitive. It's just, I mean, every single player on the team looks better, with maybe the exception of Joel Armia, but it's a remarkable turnaround, and it's really been fun to watch.
Yeah, I saw that last night. I think it was Brian Wilde of Global TV Montreal who said, you know, is there one player on the Canadiens that doesn't look better under Martin St. Louis? And I think someone answered Armia, and he said, yeah, okay, maybe point well taken there, but you're right. I mean, and Stu, it's not to pat myself on the back, but I'll pat myself on the back every now and then for someone who a lot of people say is probably illogical and irrational. I think I actually make a little bit of sense. And you know this, the analogy I used at the beginning of the year, or a month into the season, or 2 months into the season, or 3 months into the season, was if the Canadiens are a classroom and Dominique Ducharme was the teacher and the players were the students, well, if everyone was failing, it's probably not 20 bad students. Now, it doesn't mean it's a bad teacher, but what it does mean is that the teacher is teaching bad, or teaching them with certain methods that they don't understand and continuing to teach those methods instead of finding another method. And there's some kids that don't get math from their teacher and they go to Kumon and all of a sudden they get 90s. And that's what I think happened with Dominique Ducharme. And for those who said, no, it's just a team, they suck. No, that's not the case, because Marty St. Louis with the same team, or maybe even with less minus the Foley, you're seeing something, and guys are playing to their potential.
Yeah, Dan Robertson, I think I might have mentioned this when I was on one of your podcasts earlier, the TSN play-by-play guy. I think he nailed it when he said that Dominique Ducharme was coaching systems instead of coaching people. And, you know, when I had a one-on-one with Marty St. Louis a couple of weeks ago at the Bell Center, he brought up the classroom thing, and he said, you know, he says, if you're a teacher, every classroom's going to have some 90s, kids getting 90s, and every classroom's going to have some kids getting 60s. So the 90s are always going to probably be there, but the 60s, if you can learn how to teach them properly, maybe they can become 80s. And as he said, you can't teach every kid or every hockey player the same way, and we're seeing that just the way he's handled Cole Caulfield, and the way, you know, after the game last night, Brett Kulak was saying, he was asked, what's the difference? He says, I'm just playing hockey. Like, I'm not thinking what the system is, where I'm supposed to be. I'm just reacting and playing. I mean, Kulak's been really good. The last few games, and as everybody else, the team they're just playing now. It's supposed to be, you know, hockey's supposed to be fun. It wasn't fun anymore under Dominique Ducharme, and now it's fun again. The guys are enjoying playing. They're enjoying Martin St. Louis' system, and the results show on the ice. And you know, Dominique Ducharme, you hate, for each game under Martin St. Louis, it's making him look worse and worse as a coach. I mean, it's just a remarkable turnaround. And I think the thing with Dominique Ducharme, he was just too stubborn to adjust and make changes. I mean, Jeff Petrie spoke out publicly. The players didn't like playing the system he had in place, and he just seemed to be sticking with it. And when we'd ask him in the media, like, are you making any changes? Oh, we tinker a little bit here and there. But I think it was more, they needed more than just tinkering. They needed a new way to look at the game. Martin St. Louis came in with a new way to look at the game, and the results speak for themselves.
By the way, for those who sent text messages, tweets, emails, and all that stuff, and got on members of the media, I was one of them, because when I said that Petrie didn't want to play for Dominic Ducharme, and it was obvious, and I know, Stu, you said the same thing.
Yeah.
Many people accused us, oh, you members of the media, you see, this is a reason why players don't want to play in Montreal, and you guys are making, something small, you're making something big out of it when it's small, and there's nothing there, and let it go. Folks, there's a couple of things you need to understand. First of all, there's certain things you say in the media and certain things you don't say. And what Jeff Petrie said in the media on the record, you're not supposed to say. When you say it, it's because you really don't care that you ruffle the coach's feathers. Also, we do have access to some information that some of you do not, right? So when a player isn't exactly the president of the coach's fan club, we do find out either, from different sources, we find that out. So when we run with something, can you have a little bit of faith in us every now and then, please? Because I think it's safe to say now that Jeff Petrie did not respect Dominic Ducharme. Jeff Petrie did not like playing for Dominic Ducharme. Jeff Petrie spoke up when others did not, because he wasn't the only one. And if you thought that the coach had nothing to do with the Canadiens' shortcomings, I think the proof is in the pudding now, right?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty safe to say that coaching matters.
There's two ways you can look at it with Petrie, right, Tony? Some people are criticizing, saying that, he didn't show leadership. He quit on this coach. He didn't want to play for him. And then the other side, you can say maybe he did show leadership. There was obviously a major frustration in the room, and he was the guy as a leader in the team who was willing to be outspoken about it with the media. And I've written columns. When you know Jeff Petrie, that is unlike him. It's not his character, at least I don't think, to criticize a coach publicly the way he did. So when it came from him, it was a very loud voice, and he was speaking for the rest of the guys in that locker room, I think. And I asked him that last time he spoke with the media. I said, Jeff, when you were talking about your frustration with the system, was that just you personally, or were you speaking for the team? Was it a group thing? And he said it was a group, like however you want to put it, it was a group thing. So basically he was speaking, He was the voice from the locker room telling us in the media, this isn't working, we're not happy. They weren't happy with the system last year either. If you go back to when Ducharme took over last year from Claude Julien, they really struggled with it. Right through, even when they were down 3-1 to the Leafs, and then Carey Price stood on his head, and they went to the Stanley Cup final. But I think when Ducharme was signed to that 3-year contract in the offseason, it's hard. How do you get rid of a coach who just took a team to the Stanley Cup final? I think a lot of guys like Petrie were like, oh man, like hopefully it's going to be different. Like we're going to do something different. And they did. He didn't. The same system without Carey Price there to come to the rescue when the system didn't work. And Petrie explained it pretty clearly the other day. He was saying when they would switch, a defenseman could only cover a player so far up in the defensive zone, then they had to switch. And when they made that switch, the other team had a second there to cut to the net or have an opening. And there's so much video done in the NHL today. Opposing teams were seeing that, and they figured out how to break that system that Ducharme was playing. And that's why they couldn't get the puck out of their own end. And that led to all the frustration and everything else that went on. And now that we're seeing, as Brett Kulak's saying, they're just playing hockey. They're reacting and playing. As Martin St. Louis said, I'd rather have a guy make a bad read than be afraid to make a read. And with Ducharme, the players were afraid to make a read.
All right. Having said all that, I'll give you my take here on Petrie. I don't think it was a form of leadership, him calling out, you want to do something for the team. As well as I do, Stu, let's be honest here. He could have gone to the executive of hockey ops and or the general manager and say, hey, can we talk? Listen.
Maybe he did.
Sure. But he doesn't have to come out. And I think he let the coach down because everything he was saying and everything he was feeling was true. There's no doubt about it. At the same time, he didn't look like a guy who wanted to fight through it, right? He looked like a guy who didn't believe and just threw in the towel, and here we go. On to Kulak. Martin St. Louis was asked about Kulak, and he told him, he says, I'm just allowing him to make reads, right? Which we talked about, which leads, it's kind of like they were playing like robots before. Everything was systemic and systematic, and now it's like, I'm going to leave it up to you, and you use your judgment. And that's when, obviously, you're thinking more. And by thinking more, you end up becoming a smarter player because you're exercising that part of your body. And by making reads, you can create while playing. Anyway, it is a pretty cool story. Caulfield, Gallagher, Suzuki, Lehkonen, and Hoffman in an empty net yesterday. Those are your goal scorers. The Canadiens have won 3 of 4 on this 5-game road trip. They've won 6 of their last 7. They have a record of 7-4 in their Marty St. Louis. We are live right now, Stu Cowan, on Twitter. So follow us at the Sick Podcasts. We are also live on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do so. And one of the cool things about following us on social media is that when we either upload an episode or we go live, you're notified right away, and you can tune in right away. So thanks for doing so. You can also follow us, of course, on Instagram and on Facebook. And we're live on Facebook as well, which is kind of cool. All right, so
Tony, when you were talking about Kulak there, just interrupt for a second. When you talk with Brett Kulak, he's a smart guy. He's a really smart guy, not just hockey IQ. He's just a smart guy. Same with Jeff Petrie. So let these smart guys use their brain, as you were saying. You know?
Yeah,
let them use their brain and make reads and make decisions, and that's what's happening now.
Sharing is caring. Share this with your friends on social media. Share it on Facebook right now. Share it to different groups. And we appreciate that, by the way, so we can get as many people watching, and we can continue to spread the word and make some noise here. All right, okay. Let's get back to that hockey game last night. Want to let everyone know that if you're just joining us for the first time, first of all, welcome. And if you're back, thanks for staying with us. What we usually do on Sundays is we usually get to your questions. So we encourage you to send in questions. We'll get to your comments. We'll try and answer as many as possible. We'll give a very quick rundown of the game last night. 11 minutes in, Cole Caulfield intercepts a pass. He scores on a real quick wrist shot. That's his 7th goal in 11 games under Martin St. Louis. By the way, correct me if I'm wrong, Stu Cowan, but a couple of weeks ago, somebody asked if Cole Caulfield was going to hit 15 goals this season. And yours truly said, yes, he will. And I stand by my prediction. I'm feeling pretty good about it right now. He's got 7 goals in 11 games under Marty St. Louis, so I'm feeling pretty good about it.
And he could have had a couple more last night.
You're right about that. Brendan Gallagher scored for the first time. He ended in 19 games. He ended a 19-game goalless drought. He did it in front of friends and family, which was kind of cool. It was a power play goal. He had gone over 3 months without scoring a goal, so we'll talk about that in just a second. Samuel Montembeault makes an unbelievable glove save right at the buzzer of the first period to keep the Canadiens up by a score of 2-1 on Draisaitl. Suzuki has a goal called back and then ends up scoring another one. The Canadiens go 2 for 4 on the power play. Edmonton was 0 for 4 on the power play. Connor McDavid played almost 23 minutes and he went pointless. And, that's pretty much the story of the hockey game. Lehkonen scores a shorthanded goal on a beautiful pass by Brett Kulak that we talked about. And it doesn't get better than this right now, does it?
No, McDavid had 2 shots on goal, I believe, and Draisaitl had 1. And going into the game, I was thinking, okay, this is the Edmonton Oilers. The Canadiens have been able to shut them down in the past, but that was because of Philip Danault, or a large part because of Philip Danault. No Philip Danault last night. Same thing. They were able to shut them down. And I think that also speaks just to how, we've talked about Caulfield and the other guys playing better under Martin St. Louis, but Nick Suzuki has been just, the last 2 games has been unbelievable. I mean, that's the player that Marc Bergevin was banking on when he gave him that 8-year, $63 million contract, both ends of the ice. He's just been outstanding the last couple of games. And, the Canadiens to shut down that those are the 2 guys they play Edmonton. You got to shut those 2 guys down. Their goaltending's weak. It was weak again last night. Going into Calgary, I figured, the Canadiens are going to get smoked here. I think Calgary's just too good of a team. They beat them. Going into Edmonton, Montembeault in net after he had really struggled the previous game. Again, I'm going, boy, this doesn't look good. Montembeault, to his credit, played fantastic. That save at the end of the first period, I think, was a key turning point, Tony, because they went up 1-0 and they let Edmonton come back almost right away. They went up 2-1 and Edmonton almost came back right away again with that save. And then it carried the momentum through to the second period. So it's, going in, I wouldn't have predicted, even as well as they've been playing under Martin St. Louis, I didn't think they would beat Calgary and Edmonton back to back.
Yeah.
But Martin St. Louis is he's proved people wrong since he was the kid. Always told he was too small, never drafted at the NHL draft, and put on waivers in the NHL. Nobody took him, and then goes on to have a Hall of Fame career. So I'm really, the 20-minute one-on-one I had with him, he's driven. You can tell when you talk to him, like he's thoughtful, he's driven. He wants to succeed. Has succeeded his whole life. He had a great quote in his interview with Marc Denis when he was saying, "I'm not intimidated by the CH. I grew up as a Canadiens fan cheering for it." He says, "I'm not coaching the logo. I'm coaching the people." And he has great people skills and great communication skills. And I think that's more important today in any pro sport as a head coach than X's and O's. It's being able to get guys to buy into what you want them to do and having them want to play for you. And these guys want to play for Martin St. Louis. It's obvious.
He's already accomplished something, and I haven't seen anyone talk about this, so we'll bring it up here, I think, hopefully for the first time, which is always kind of cool. He's already accomplished something that no other coach has accomplished in the last 10 years coaching the Montreal Canadiens. Can you guess what that is?
Not off the top of my head. What is it?
The Canadiens aren't as good as Carey Price is going to be. And for 10 years, that's been happening, right? If Carey Price was great, the Canadiens were great. If Carey Price was bad, the Canadiens were bad. And if Carey Price was average, the Canadiens were average. The Canadiens went as Carey Price went.
Yeah.
He doesn't have Carey Price. He has Samuel Montembeault, and he has Andrew Hammond, who's hurt right now.
Yeah.
And he had Caden Primo before they went out and acquired Andrew Hammond. He doesn't have Carey Price. Andrew Hammond, as good as he played in the games he played, it's the team that won. Mm-hmm. Montembeault, as good as he's played in the games that he's played, it's the team that's won.
Yeah.
Right? Are we agree?
Well, I agree. I mean, obviously you need good goaltending. When Montembeault struggled the other night in Winnipeg, the team still fought back and almost made a game of it. You need good goaltending, but I go back to that game 6 of the playoffs last year against Toronto when the Canadiens were outshot 13-2 in overtime, and they won. They won because of Carey Price. I mean, that's why they won, and that's why they went to the Stanley Cup final. Now, you need good goaltending to win, but that's not the only reason the Canadiens are winning, right? If they're playing as a team, they're scoring. The guys who are supposed to score are scoring. The guys who are supposed to play good defense are playing good defense. Their best players are their best players right now. And I throw Jeff Petrie in there also. He's been a new player since Martin St. Louis took over. Cole Caulfield's supposed to score goals. He's scoring goals. Nick Suzuki's supposed to be your best player. He's your best player. You go down, Josh Anderson's supposed to be a power forward. He's playing like a power forward. You go down and down and down. Arturi Lehkonen scores again last night. I mean, he's been their most consistent player all year, but he's even better now since Marty St. Louis took over. We talk about having fun. Maybe it was a game in Winnipeg when they're doing the post-game interviews, and it was right beside the locker room, and you could hear the music blaring in the locker room. The guys were obviously having a good time. The music was blaring. And this is a team that's
still... Stu, if I can, that's the game they won in Ottawa.
That's right. And this is the team that's
with Nickelback playing in the background.
Yeah, they're still in 31st place. Yeah. But they're having fun. And I don't think, they had mailed it in this season. That 7-1 loss in New Jersey, which was the last straw for Dominic Ducharme. And after the game, Josh Anderson talked about it's not fun coming to the rink. We're not enjoying ourselves. We need a reset. We need to do something different. They're having fun now. I mean, imagine the plane ride last night to Vancouver, how much fun they were having. Today's a day off. I think it's a rookie dinner tonight. These guys are they're having fun again. And hockey, I mean, it's a business for these guys. It is, but it's supposed to be fun. It's been fun since they were little kids. And Martin St. Louis as a coach understands that. And again, to go back to what I was saying earlier about Dan Robertson's comment where Dominic Ducharme coached systems instead of people, Martin St. Louis is coaching people.
Yeah. Why don't we do this? Let's get to the questions now without further ado. And this first one's for you. So we'll go Stu, Tony. Newfound Habs. Do you think the unbelievable turnaround for the Habs is more the result of getting rid of Ducharme or hiring St. Louis? Is a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B, Stu?
A little mix of both. As I said, for each game that goes on with Martin St. Louis, every team gets a bump when a new coach comes in. It just happens. Everybody wants to prove themselves. But the longer this goes on, and each game the Canadiens play like they did last night in Calgary, it makes Dominic Ducharme look worse. It just shows that the system he was playing doesn't work in the NHL. And again, if you can't get it's a big difference between junior hockey and NHL hockey. Same as it's a big difference between college football and NFL football, or college basketball and NBA basketball. You look at coaches who have really succeeded in college football, gone to the NFL, and it hasn't worked, or college basketball, the same thing, because in junior or college, the players will do anything you tell them to do. Their dream is to go to the next level. So whatever the coach tells them to do, they're going to do it. But with the pros, if they don't buy what you're selling or don't agree with it, they're going to tune you out after a while.
Yeah.
And it's easier to fire one coach than 20 players. And that's why it's what works in junior or what works in college doesn't necessarily work when you're dealing with pro athletes who have long-term contracts and they know they're here. And guys like Petrie and other guys who say, this guy, what he's doing doesn't make sense, and he won't listen to us when we're telling him it doesn't make sense. And that's when the frustration grows. That's when teams tune out a coach. That's when teams stop playing, like the Canadiens have stopped playing. That's when your goalie gets run over behind the net by Zach Cassian and nobody comes to his defense because guys have checked out.
And it makes the people who believed in Martin St. Louis and liked the hiring of Martin St. Louis and told all the naysayers, give this guy a chance. He's going to show you what he can do. It makes them look pretty good as well. I'm not going to name names here. But.
Well, Marty St. Louis said, even at his first press conference, Tony, when he said, just give me a chance and I'll show you. And that was his mother's slogan to him his whole life. Yeah. Just show them, Marty. So just give me a chance and I'll show you. You got the chance and he's showing us. I
wasn't going to bet against the guy, I tell you that right now, because everyone who did, he proved them all wrong and continues to do it. All right, I'll take the next one. Let's go. Paul Cormier, thanks for the brunch, Tony. Thank you. Due to recent success, it's blaring that a few players are showing weakness. What is the future of Armia, Perreault, Paquette, and Poehling with the Habs? All right, Armia's contract is not a good one. You can get somebody, do what he does, do what he does actually even better probably at $1.4 million instead of $3.4 million. So they have to try and find ways to part ways with that player who's going to have 3 years left at $3.4 million after this year. As for Perreault, I think he's a good veteran. There's always a team that's looking for depth for a playoff run. He can play center. He can play wing. I believe he's going to get picked up. Paquette, to a lesser degree, I think there's a chance that he could get picked up, but to a much lesser degree. It looks like the truck is breaking down and it's in the garage very, very often. And as for Ryan Poehling, I don't think the Canadiens are going to throw in the towel with Ryan Poehling. I actually think that Marty St. Louis is going to look at it and say, you know what? I helped Caulfield get to the next level. I helped Suzuki get to the next level. And at a certain point, he's going to help Poehling try and get to another level as well. So I think, they're not throwing in the towel on Poehling. I think they'd love to trade Armia. I believe they will trade Matthew Perreault and to a lesser degree Paquette. Next one's for you, Stu. Naoya Cusano. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. McDavid wants out of Edmonton. We know that. How about Sherratt, Price, Gallagher, Armia, Drouin, Dvorak, and maybe a draft pick? All right, okay. So McDavid makes $12.5 million. Can we put those names back up there for a second? $12.5 million. Can we put those names back? Okay. So Gallagher makes 6.5. Price makes 10.5. That's 17. Sherratt's UFA at the end of the year, and he's making 3.5 this year, so he's only going to make more. Armia makes 3.4. Drouin makes 5.5. Dvorak makes 4.65 or something like that. How the hell is it going to work? Naoya, thanks for the message, but come on, let's be somewhat reasonable here, okay? Stu, for you.
Yeah. Also, next question. Okay.
Great to listen to you guys on a lazy Sunday. Habs talk highlight of my week. The Habs starting D in 23-24 will include amongst the current roster D also Harris, Gooley, Mailloux, and Norlinder. Who do you envision being on that roster, Stu?
That's a good question. Jeff Petrie's a big question whether they're going to trade him or they're not going to trade him. Romanov is obviously going to be there. Brett Kulak's an interesting situation, a guy who can become a free agent at the end of the season. Do they trade him? Do they try and re-sign him? It's a good question. I'm not even really sure what the answer is. I think Jordan Harris, if they can sign him, is going to play with the Canadiens before the end of the season. I think that'll be part of the deal to burn off the first year of his entry-level contract. Goulet, I think, is going to be here next season. He was a late cut this year. So you're going to have some young kids that you need to keep. You have to have some veterans around. So I think a lot of it depends on the Jeff Petrie situation, whether they trade him or not. If they do trade him, you need to have some kind of a vet. If you lose him and Sherratt, you can't just go with 6 kids playing defense in the NHL. It's not going to work. You have to keep some kind of a veteran around. So I would be, unless, Hughes has said right from the beginning, he's willing to trade Petrie, but it has to be a deal that works for both sides. And I'm sure they've sat down now and say, look, Jeff, you got to remember, twice Jeff Petrie had a chance to leave Montreal as a free agent. He never even tested the market.
Yeah.
He liked Montreal. His family liked Montreal. Things went off the rails this year. His wife's pregnant with their 4th son. The COVID restrictions, she decided she was going to be more comfortable back home in Michigan, which I understand, with a young family. Everything went wrong for him this year. So I'm sure Hughes is saying, like, do you really want to play here? Like, or can we count on you to stay here? And if Petrie says yes, then unless it's a trade that knocks his socks off, I don't think he's going to move him. So until the Petrie situation is resolved, I think it's hard to answer that question. But I think Jordan Harris is definitely going to play here before the end of the season if they sign him. And Goulet, I can't see Goulet not starting next season with the Canadiens.
I'm not so sure about that in terms of Petrie. I mean, I've said before that I don't see Jeff Petrie on this team when next season starts. I'm going to stick by that, even if he has he changes his mind. I think they want to part ways there to shave some money off the cap and to get younger. What I didn't understand about the last question is why we skipped 22-23 and we already went to 23-24. But anyway, I agree with you that Jordan Harris will be here by the end of the year, and he's going to play some games so that they can burn a year off of his contract. All right. I'll take the next one. Let's go. Marvin Matthews. Can the team realistically become a true contender via trades and without 2 or 3 years of high draft picks? Good question. I would say no. I would say you're going to need some high draft picks over the next couple of years, but I think it's a moot point because we know they're going to have a high draft pick this year. All right. They're going to, at the very worst case scenario, I mean, if they keep winning the way they're winning, they're going to pick in the top 5. They're not going to pick worse than 5. Okay. So, and I would imagine it'll be a top 10 pick next year. So, they're going to be picking pretty good, I would think. And maybe that 5, by the way, could be a 2. Maybe it could be a 3. Maybe that top 10 next year could be a 7 or 8. So they're going to have some pretty big draft picks, some pretty good draft picks over the next couple of years. They just better make sure they get them right. All right, Stu, you got the next one. Stephen Krause. When they are healthy, will players like Dvorak get back in the lineup, or will Martin St. Louis continue to play the players who are exerting all this effort and winning? Stu?
Dvorak, they'll get back in because I think Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon want to see what these guys are. Like, Dvorak hasn't had a great season. Are they going to move him before the trade deadline or try and move him, or do they think he has a future with the team? So they're going to want to see what these guys can do, whether it's before the trade deadline or in the offseason, if they're going to keep him or they're going to move them. So they're going to play.
Dvorak will play. My guess is Dvorak will slot in the 2-hole. Laurent Dauphin will go in the 4-hole. And one of Dauphin or Paling will end up playing the wing on that 4th line. I'll get the next one. It's Brunchin when Marinaro, Philippe Laurent. Hi, Tony. Who are the free agents the Habs should try and sign? Should Subban be considered for the short term? No. No, I don't see why. PK is not the player that he used to be. I think he'll try and command some sort of salary anyway. I don't see it. I don't see it being a fit. I think that ship has sailed. Stu, if you want to chime in on that.
No, I can't see them coming here. I don't think Jeff Molson would bring PK Subban back here either. Be interesting to see, though, if the Toronto Maple Leafs have any interest in PK Subban as a free agent.
There he'd probably be willing to play for a discount.
Yeah.
I would think a hometown team, a chance at a cup. All right, Stu, you got the next one. Paulie, hey guys, do you think the Habs winning? Will they keep some players that they were going to trade when they were losing? Kulak, Lehkonen, for example. All right. So if they were planning on trading Kulak and Lehkonen, now that they're playing so well, both of them, and they're winning, do they keep them?
I don't know if they keep all of them, but they might keep some of them. Like, again, as Ken Hughes has said, I'm not going into the trade deadline looking to trade 5 players, but if I get 5 deals that I can't say no to, I will. So I think it's definitely playing a role in his decision as whether he's going to keep them or not. The free agency thing works also. I mean, these guys have to want to stay here, right? If they're going to, people talk about Sherratt. I mean, there's a possibility there of trading Sherratt, getting a first-round pick, and then re-signing him in the offseason if he wants to stay here. And also if the team taking him only wants him as a rental and doesn't want him on the condition that he signs a long-term contract there. So, yeah, I think the way they've played better, that the thing is, people are saying with the coaching change, they shouldn't have done it. They were tanking under Ducharme. That's what you want to do. But they weren't getting a read on any of these players under Ducharme. The timing of the change, I think, was great because now they're realizing how important Lehkonen is to the team. They're realizing Brett Kulak, the player he can be when he's just playing and not thinking. They're seeing a happy Jeff Petrie play. They're seeing Cole Caulfield put the puck in the net. They tried that line, that's been so good with Suzuki and Caulfield and Josh Anderson. That's a line to keep up moving forward. I don't think they were thinking of trading Josh Anderson, but if they were, how do you trade him when you see what he's playing with this line? So I think it will change the way they think about some things. I think they're still going to trade some guys, but it's given them a better read. Can use a better read on what he wants to do going forward.
Catch-22, right? They knew that if they would have kept Ducharme, they wouldn't have won too many games, and it would have given them a much better chance at a better draft pick. But like you said, the player's value was basically all of them was at a low. And if they wanted to trade players, well, then you have to build up their value to be able to trade them, or else you're going to end up getting shortchanged. That's number one. Number two, they thought it was important for them to get some of the players that they bank on going forward to turn their game around before their game could hit rock bottom. And notably Caulfield. I mean, Caulfield, I talked about sending Caulfield to Laval under Dominic Ducharme. And by the way, I maintain that if Dominic Ducharme still would have been coaching this team, the thing to do would have been to send Cole Caulfield to Laval. I maintain that because he had a goal in 29 games and it was getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. There was no trend to make you believe that it was actually getting better. So, and now Lehkonen's value is up, Kulak's value is up, Sherratt's value is up, Jeff Petrie's value is up, everyone's value is up. Another thing, if they would have been sold on Shane Wright that he was without a doubt the slam dunk number one pick, maybe they wait a little bit longer, but I'm not so sure they were sold on him being the slam dunk number one. I think they looked at it and said, you know what? If we pick third, we can get a player who might end up being better than Shane Wright. I think that had something to do with it.
And you weigh it, Tony. Okay, the value of tanking to maybe get Shane Wright versus the value of getting Cole Caulfield back on track now. As opposed to, as you said, if Dominic Ducharme stayed here, he's going down to Laval. His confidence is shot. Going into next season, he's not happy, right? He doesn't want to play in Laval. He comes back next season, he's on a low. Now,
maybe he wants out.
Like Kotkaniemi. Instead, now you got a kid who's playing like people expected him to play, scoring goals like he's done everywhere he's been. So to me, that's more valuable to the Canadiens moving forward than the possibility of a 25% chance or whatever of maybe getting Shane Wright, who may be a good NHL player, or he may not. There's no guarantee. I mean, Alexis Lafreniere was supposed to be the superstar player in the NHL. He's like a third liner now in New York. It doesn't mean he won't be a good player moving forward and improve. But to me, the most important thing, he's been great.
He's been great in the last 2 weeks, but I get it. 2 weeks is not, but he's been great. He's been playing with Kreider and Zibanejad. But one more thing, if I can add, Stu, is that with Marty St. Louis, you have a much better chance of attracting free agents than you do with Dominic Ducharme. I'm not saying it was going to happen, but how do you have this kind of season? The players saying the things they're saying, they're all telling their buddies, this is a terrible place to play. This coach has no idea. We don't respect him, yada, yada, yada. Now, can you imagine these players training in the offseason with some guys on other teams and that player asked them about Marty St. Louis, what they're going to say?
Well, that's what Vinny Lecavalier said when he had his Zoom conference after he was hired as a consultant. He said a selling point for free agents now. Somebody asked him, how are you going to sell free agents to come to Montreal? He said, Martin St. Louis. Players want to play for a coach who thinks offense. And Jeff Petrie said the other day with Martin St. Louis, now as soon as we get the puck on our stick, even if it's in the defensive zone, we're thinking offense right away. So fun guy to play with. And he has that instant respect as a Hall of Fame player when he came into the room. And now 11 games or whatever it is into his coaching career, he's gaining that respect as a coach. And the other thing I really like about Marty also, Tony, is he's been so honest. He's been honest about how things move really fast behind the bench. And he talked about in the Calgary game where it was when there's so many penalties and it was 5-on-4 and 4-on-3, and he struggled with it. And he was honest about it. I mean, a lot of coaches would never game.
The Winnipeg game.
A lot of coaches would never admit that they were finding, and he said it. Now that's the difficult part for him. Practices are practices and whatever and setting line, but it's when it starts moving fast behind the bench, he's learning that. But he's a smart guy and he seems to be learning it quickly. He's leaning on his buddy Luke Richardson to help him out in that respect. But for a team that has talked so much about transparency in the past and never done it. Even from the coach, we're getting it now. He's being honest. He's it's a learning process for me behind the bench, but he's learning quick.
it takes a lot of humility and a lot of confidence in oneself to be able to say to an entire fan base in Winnipeg, there were so many penalties that then the lines got screwed up. It was going a little bit fast for me type of thing. And I needed some time. I got off track a little bit there, but I'm learning. It takes a tremendous amount of humility and confidence.
And it goes back to what I was saying before, Tony, just about being honest with your players and being honest. You don't think the players hear that? The players, maybe they're on the bench going, "Oh man, this guy's a good coach," but and then they hear him say that and they go, "Good, he gets it. Like he knows, and he's a smart guy." And again, it's coaching people is more important than coaching systems. And even if he's struggling a little bit behind the bench when things move quick, he's still the players are still buying what he's selling.
I could tell you something else too. I'm gonna guess it was it the game 1, 2, 3? I think it was the game versus the Sabres. I think it was the game versus the Sabres that the Canadiens won by a score of 4-0 on Wednesday, February 23rd. Okay, I need you to think about this for a second. Okay, they were a last place team, right? They're battling with Arizona for last place overall. This is what St. Louis behind the bench has done. I'm going to tell you something right now. That night, there was money put on the board. So there were people in that locker room that put money on the board to win that game. And that money goes either towards their rookie party or their year-end party, right? You think about that for a second. How many teams do you know that are either last or second last in the history of time, all right, that instead of tanking and getting that first pick, they actually want to win so badly that people are putting money on the board to go towards either the rookie party or the year-end party. I don't know which party it's going to. It's because they have two parties, right? They have the rookie party and they have the end of the year party, right? The day after the season's over, they get together and they have a few, they have a few beverages, a few 8.6. But that I thought was, when I heard that, I was like, wow, they put money on the board.
And it's like the music after the game, Tony, when they went the Ottawa. Music's blaring, and the thing is, a lot of times in a situation, a fan base would be, "I can't believe these guys are partying. They're in 31st place. Who cares if they won?" But the Habs fans are falling in love with this team again, or at least cheering for them again. They're fun to watch again. I think the fans are enjoying it. I think the fans, you hear the music playing good. There's finally something happy and something to cheer about for this team. From the high of the Stanley Cup final last year to the brutal low this season, it's fun. The players are having fun playing, and fans are having fun watching them again. Yeah. No, I wrote a column earlier this week. I played old timers hockey last Tuesday night in Pierrefonds. We went to a pub in Point Claire afterwards, and the game was on. And when the Canadiens scored to tie it up, there was a roar in the pub. It was like a playoff game again. I'm thinking, and then even when they were down trailing, people were still watching the game, and people have got back into the Canadiens again, which is maybe the biggest thing Martin St. Louis has done. You see, the Canadiens are advertising for their season ticket waiting list. Yeah, the players aren't on the ad. It's Martin St. Louis, Gorton, and Hughes are the new future of the team. So it's been good for business too. Yeah, I went to La Cage the other night to watch the game versus the Flames, and I'm telling you, and I tweeted this. He re-energized his team. Yeah, and he reinvigorated a fan base. Without doubt. I've never seen so many people happy to see the Canadiens score, the Canadiens win. It's unbelievable. And the people were out there at La Cage in big numbers. I went to the LaSalle location, which opened up just over 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I'm telling you, it was unbelievable. All right. Carey Price, before we get back to the questions, Carey Price skated on Friday and skated on Saturday. What are you thinking here? I'm thinking, how long until he gets shut down again? I hate to be negative, but every time he's been back on skates, this is what, 4th or 5th time now? He skates for a couple of days and then the knee flares up and he gets shut down again. So just from the past, it's a positive sign, but every other time he's got back on skates this season, it's been a couple of days and then he gets shut down again. So hopefully, whatever he's done off the ice the last couple of weeks, that doesn't happen again. But it's been over and over and over. I mean, they keep saying he's back on the ice, and then 3-4 days later, they announce he's not skating again. It's not once. It's at least 3 times, I think, that's happened now this season. So hopefully for him and the Canadiens, it's not a 4th time. But when I heard that, the first thing through my mind was, well, how long is he going to be able to go this time before they have to shut him down again?
We are live on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. Tell your friends about it. It's the Sick Podcast, Brunchin with Marinaro. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at the Sick Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's absolutely for free, and you can get notified when we upload an episode or when we go live. Sharing is caring. Tell your friends about it and share this video on social media, especially on Facebook. Back to the questions we go. Jay says, do you think the league will adjust to Marty St. Louis and the Habs' new way of playing?
Not necessarily, because it's not really a system. It's reacting. It's not, as I was mentioning earlier, when Jeff Petrie was talking about how the defenseman could only cover a guy up to a certain point in the defensive zone, then they had to switch. Teams watching that on video would notice that. Coaches get paid, video coaches get paid a lot of money to pick out stuff like that. Now it's not really so much, I mean, there is a system there, but as St. Louis said, it's more concepts and systems. So it's hard when players are just reading and reacting. It's harder to break that down on video, how you're going to break that system down, because they're reading and reacting, and the read and react on two similar plays, the defenseman or the forward might read and react differently to the two of them. So it's going to be harder for a opposing coach or video coach to break down what the Canadiens are doing. Whereas before, I think it was pretty easy to break down.
They're less predictable now. I'll tell you what's going to happen around the league and with other teams. Other teams are going to try and find the next Martin St. Louis. That's what's going to happen. Someone who probably doesn't have a lot of experience behind the bench, but is a great communicator, is a great leader, imposes respect, is a modern day thinker, has modern day concepts, preaches them. I think a lot of teams are going to try and find that. And what the hiring of Martin St. Louis could do is it could probably not put an end, because it'll be a while before we put an end to it, but maybe lower the chances of those recycled coaches coming back over and over again. Okay.
Yeah, Pat Hickey had a funny line in his column Saturday, talking about how NHL GMs will be scheduling the Quebec City Pee Wee tournament now for future coaches.
Good one. Very, very good. All right. He actually was funny. Marty St. Louis had a chat with Marc Denis that you were referencing. You can watch it on rds.ca. It was a very, very good conversation. And Marc Denis said to him, as a PU or Pee Wee coach, and he said Bantam. And it was pretty funny. All right. Okay. Back to the questions we go. Jeff Stahl. Would it be a slap in the face to Gallagher if Josh Anderson was named the next captain?
I've been a big booster of Brendan Gallagher for captain of the Canadiens. I even thought he should have been named captain after they got before they gave it to Shea Weber, because I think
not me. Go continue.
I think Gallagher handles everything that comes with being a captain, including off the ice, dealing with the media, etc., better than Weber did. Josh Anderson, though, the more I watch him, the more I listen to him. It's harder now that we're not in the locker room because of COVID to really get to know guys. But I think Josh Anderson has become a real leader and a voice from this team. We talked about his comments after the last game with Dominic Ducharme. I'm sure that carried a lot of weight when Jeff Gorton went to Jeff Molson and said, look, we got to make a coaching change. Just listen to what this guy was saying after the game last night. I know you're playing Claude Julien. I know you just gave Ducharme a 3-year, $5 million contract. We got to do something here. So would it be a slap in the face? A little bit. But one thing with Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton is they're very honest. And if Gallagher is still here after the trade deadline and they did decide to make Josh Anderson the captain, I'm sure they'd sit down and explain to Brendan why this decision was made and whatnot. He might be upset for a little while, but he'd get over it, I think. And again, if they can move Brendan Gallagher before the trade deadline, I think they will. So it could become a moot point if that happens, obviously.
So after this year, Brendan Gallagher has 5 years left on his contract that pays him $6.5 million a year. Last night, he ended a 19-game goalless drought. He had gone over 3 months without scoring a goal. The last time he did, Marc Bergevin was the general manager of this team. All right, just to put things into perspective here. You've seen so many signs of frustration, playing with the weight of the world on his shoulders. Imagine the weight of the sea on his jersey, because we know he's a proud guy and he wants to put up points. It would just be way, way too much for him. So I would not want him to be the captain of this team. Josh Anderson, I don't have a problem with it. However, at the end of this year, Josh Anderson will have 6 years left on his deal at $5.5 million. Not to say that they can't trade him at any point, but the Canadiens are usually not an organization that will strip someone of their C. Imagine they don't trade Josh Anderson. You think Nick Suzuki won't be the captain for 5 or 6 years? And what I'm getting at is Suzuki's going to be the captain in the very short term. All right. We can have a debate whether or not it's too much too soon. If they believe it's not, he could be your captain. If they believe it would be too much too soon, I think there could be a transition captain, maybe somebody for a couple of years, an Edmondson, somebody else with less pressure, and then eventually it will be a Suzuki. But for me, I don't think it would be doing Brendan Gallagher any favors to put the C on his jersey.
I don't think the weight of the C would have any impact on Brendan because he's already been the captain in a lot of ways already for the last few years. He's the one who deals with the media all the time, win or lose. Shea Weber would stay in the back and not come out to talk to the media after a tough loss. Gallagher was always there. He's already handled a lot of the duties that come with being captain. He's been around the city long enough. He knows everything that goes on with the camp. So I don't think it would be. I don't think the weight of the C would be a problem for him at all. It was sort of funny last night when Nick Suzuki took the monkey off Gallagher's back and threw it away for him. Yep. I think it would be too much right now on Nick Suzuki. I think Nick Suzuki is a future captain of this team, but I think to put that weight on him right now, while he's still having highs and lows, right? He goes through, but he's having a lot more highs under Marty St. Louis. I think it might be a little bit too much for him now. And again, talking about just being honest with guys, let's say Gallagher is moved before the trade deadline. Yeah. Now you need a captain next year, and Ken Hughes has already said there will be a captain. To me, Josh Anderson makes sense. You talk with Josh Anderson, you say, we're making you captain. It's going to be like a 2-year transition thing until we get to Nick Suzuki. Are you good with that? And I'm sure Josh Anderson would be okay with that. And then you do it that way. Because I think right now it's just, and it's going, don't forget, it's going into the first year of his big contract next season, Suzuki. So let's say he goes on a 10, 15 game slump and all the talk's going to be he's captain, he's got it's the big contract, it's everything, it's too much. Let him get a year or two and a couple of years into that contract and prove to everybody that he's worth that, and then you put the C on him and let him move forward. Or
the next captain is probably going to be someone who they're going to sign as an unrestricted free agent. And, we don't know if it's going to be a Patrice Bergeron or a Christopher Letang, but if it's one of the two, I say it'll be them. And if it's another player, there's a chance that it could be that other player. But I'm going to give you another reason why Brendan Gallagher cannot be the next captain of the Montreal Canadiens and should not be the next captain of the Montreal Canadiens. And Stu, get ready, because once I say this, the game is over. Are you ready? I'm going to end the game right now.
Let's do it.
He doesn't have the respect of the officials.
I think he, I think he's gained the respect. I talked with Dave Jackson a while ago, and he said that, Brendan came in, he was mouthy. He says, but they respect the way he plays and they respect how courageous he is. And Brendan's not as bad as he used to be. He's a very fiery guy, and he gets upset in that. But I think he has over the years gained much more respect from the officials just by the way he plays. I mean, you're a referee, you're watching, you're getting a close-up look at the beating this guy takes in front of the net every single game. So I think he's gained more respect from the officials over the years. I would have agreed with you a few years ago, but I think over the years he has gained respect from the officials.
We'll agree. Of course he has, because he's a veteran. That goes without saying. So that's an automatic. But we'll agree to disagree, because he gets called a lot.
Yeah.
When he commits an infraction, they never let it go. And when there's a goal that appears to be a goal, it seems like it's always called off. I don't remember when was the last time he got the benefit of the doubt. So listen, I love you. Yeah. You love me. Hey, we're going to agree to disagree. Okay?
It's good to disagree. It's good
All
to
right,
disagree.
Okay.
Oh, last night.
My wife and I do it every day, and we've lasted 20 years.
To follow up on your point, you look at the game last night when I can't remember who was in the Oilers bench who had his stick on the ice while he's sitting on the bench, and Gallagher skates by and flicks it away, and Gallagher gets a penalty. So it's okay now. You're allowed to sit on the bench and have your stick on the ice and try and play with how is that a penalty on Brendan Gallagher? He skated.
Thank you for proving my point. Game over. Let's end the show right now. Bye-bye. Have a nice Sunday.
I watched a replay of that. I'm like, how does Gallagher get a penalty for that? The guy's got his stick on the ice over the bench, and Gallagher skates by and knocks it out of the way.
We're actually probably going to go another 10 minutes if we can, and then we'll end it at that. Mike Manfkafis, have the officials and the interpretation of the rule and the review ruined Gallagher's career? Hasn't ruined his career, but that's a very good question.
Well, you look at the goal last night that was disallowed when the Oilers player, I can't remember who it was, crashed into Montembeault. And was he pushed? Yeah. But his head, he never made any effort to get out of the way of the goalie. And my problem with video reviews, there's no consistency. I've seen guys get pushed harder into the goalie than that, and the goal counted. And I guess I'm making your point for if that was Brendan Gallagher, that's probably no goal. But when I went to video review, I said, this can't be a goal. I mean, he took Montembeault out of the net. Montembeault wasn't able to make the save. He was pushed, but he was pretty far away from the net. But I don't think it's just the interpretation of the rule. What is I don't know what goalie interference is now. Do you? I have no idea.
If I was the National Hockey League, this is what I would do. I would try and find a way for more goals to be scored in the game, because at the end of the day, that's why the fans go to the game. They want to see goals. Okay.
I tweeted last night, I'd rather just get rid of video review. I'd rather just live with the few mistakes that the officials make, because there's no, it goes to video review. What looks like you can find a video of that goal last night from another game, almost the exact same play. And it would be ruled the other way. There's absolutely no consistency. So I'd rather get rid of video review. There was 6 video reviews in last night's game. Just get rid of it. And the only video review is whether the puck went over the line or not. That should be the only video review. Apart from that, just live with the mistakes, because it's the video review makes no sense. It makes no sense.
You and I talked about Nick Suzuki before, and we both agree that in the near future, he's going to end up being the captain of the Montreal Canadiens. If he won't be the next one, he will be the one after the next one. All right. He picked up 3 points last night, a goal, 2 assists. The game before that versus Calgary, he picked up 3 points, a goal, 2 assists. Do you know, and I saw this last night, how many points he has in the last 19 games?
It's more than a point a game. I'm not sure exactly what it is.
You would be correct. He has 21 points in his last 19 games.
That's a quarter of a season.
21 points in 19 games. That's a quarter of a season, like you said.
A little less than a quarter of a season.
So you know what? You keep on doing that, and chances are you're not. But even if you drop off a little bit, if you end up doing that over 82 games, and even if you drop off a little bit, you end up being a point per game player.
I might be wrong here, Tony, but I think the last point per game player the Habs had was Vinny Damphousse. I might be wrong. I remember I wrote something about that.
That would be incorrect.
Who was it then?
Kovalev for sure. Because when Kovalev played for Carbonneau and he played on that line with Panitz and Kostitsyn, he had 84 points, if memory serves me
well.
I
remember I wrote a column about it a couple of years ago. So it was Kovalev, or it was that. Okay. It's a long time ago, though.
If we can have our statisticians in the background actually send us something here via chat, all right? Go to Alexei Kovalev, Hockey DB, and I believe Alexei Kovalev had a season where he picked up 84 points with Guy Carbonneau as coach. If we can just get that confirmation, and so he would be, I would imagine, I think he would be the last one to do it at that point. And yes, that was Guy Carbonneau was coaching. And so that was a long time ago. That was more than a decade ago.
And I know for a fact the last player to finish in the top 10 in scoring was Mats Naslund in 1986.
110 points. Yeah, 110 points. All right, okay. Let's see how hard they're working back at Master Control here. Alexei Kovalev, Hockey DB, look it up and send us on the chat how many points he had and which season. I believe he had 84 points. 84 points in 2007, 2008. There you have it. We just got confirmation from Sammy, the producer.
You know who we need here is Dick Irvin, Tony. I interviewed him the other day for his 90th birthday.
Really, eh? How's
he
he
went
doing?
Back talking about games that were 50 years ago and scores, and you go back and double check to make sure, and every single one of them was right. He's like a photographic memory.
He's still sharp, huh?
Yeah.
He's something. He's something.
You remember that, like the years, the scores, everything was right. Everything was bang on.
Danny Gallivan and Dick Irvin. There's never been a better duo in the broadcast booth. Can we agree? With all due respect, for all the others who are so good at their job. There's many of them, by the way, who are really, really good at what they do. But Danny Gallivan and Dick Irvin, unbelievable.
And what I like so much about Dick Irvin, Tony, with all the award, Hockey Hall of Fame and Order of Canada, he's just a really kind, nice, humble man. When I called him the day before his birthday and told him I was wanting to write something about him celebrating his 90th birthday, he was like, "Oh, no, nobody cares, Stu. Nobody cares. It's 23 years since I did my last game. People don't remember who I am." I said, I think I disagree with you there, Dick. I think a lot of people would. So I was glad I was able to convince him to let me write a column about him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just a really nice man, and sharp stuff. The voice still sounds the same, sharp as attack, and the memory, like I said, he remembers games from the 60s and 70s and 50s. He remembers the score. He remembers who scored. It was quite remarkable.
It's pretty awesome. All right, a couple of more questions on Brunchin with Marinaro. Presented by 8.6 Beer, intense by nature, the beer for those who follow their instinct and live their passions in order to make their mark, of course. All right, okay, let's go to questions. Eric Diorio, will the Canadiens trade Shea Weber's contract? Stu, you would think it's something they want to do. 100%.
I know last night on the hockey game, Elliot Friedman, they were talking that there's talk about it floating around. So yeah, Chris Ponger's contract got traded around. I think he ended his career with the Arizona Coyotes, if I'm not mistaken, even though he never played for them. So you'll have a team like Arizona, who's only going to have 5,000 seat arena next year, that'll probably be looking to get to the league minimum salary cap, and it's a 7.8 million cap hit around there for Weber, but I think he's only making $1 million or $1.5 million next year. So you're basically, the team's saving over $6 million by acquiring that contract. So I could see it happening.
The final 3 years of his contract, or the final 4 years of his contract, go $3 million, $1 million, $1 million, $1 million.
Yeah.
So he'll get paid $6 million in salary over the final 4 years of his contract. All right, okay. Back to the questions we go. Renault, is Carey Price the worst contract in the National Hockey League? And is Gallagher top 10?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I can't. No, Carey Price, $10.5 million, 4 more years. Injuries over 30. Yeah, I mean, that's a bad contract. And Gallagher, I'm hoping for Brendan Gallagher. The thing I've said, Brendan Gallagher was underpaid with the Canadiens for a long time. 30 goal scorer making $3 million. This new contract looks like he's overpaid. He's had injuries, had groin and hip issues. For his sake, and I hope that this is one season where, he spoke about how it was a short summer. He didn't have time to train the way he normally trains. Maybe this is just a one season off. He gets a full work. He's going to have a long off season this year. Gets to train, come back, and can be the Brendan Gallagher that we've seen in the past next season. But there's a lot of wear and tear on that body. And if he is able to come back like that, how long can he stay like that? Can he get through a full season like that without getting hurt again? So yeah, his contract, I mean, Carey Price's contract is a bad contract, and Gallagher's, it's too early to say, but it's looking moving forward like it could be a bad contract.
Rapid fire here in the final 3 minutes of Brunchin with Marinaro. Let's try and do this. Okay. Kyle Whiteman, which position Habs need to address through trades or draft? Defense, forward, goalie, or all of the above? A puck-moving defenseman, I think, is really what the doctor ordered. Okay, next. Christopher Burby, why aren't they trading for a scrapper to protect Caulfield and Suzuki? Would you go out and you get somewhat of a enforcer / player, Stu?
The days of the scrapper are gone. You have to have a guy who can say Josh Anderson will protect those guys if needed.
Yeah, some will argue that they have Deloria in Anaheim and they have McDermott in Colorado, but for the most part, the role is being somewhat diminished for sure. Curtis Alt, aside from simplifying the structure, what have you noticed tactically that Martin St. Louis has changed, Stu, after your talk with him?
Just allowing guys to make reads, just letting them play the game and make the decisions that they think are the right decisions, and having a coach who's willing to, the biggest thing, having a coach who's willing to live with the mistakes that might come from them making decisions and not sit them on the end of the bench or put them up in the press box because they made a bad read and made a mistake. And that takes a whole lot of pressure off every player on the team. Two more.
This is the second last one. Steve Raymond. Hey, Tony, love the show. In light of the recent success, do you think there's a chance we could re-sign Sherratt? He's a very valuable player. I think Nick Suzuki was kind of like making a plea for Sherratt to actually come back to the Canadiens. Look, I believe he'll be traded. And whether or not they're going to be able to re-sign him, I think it's difficult when you trade a player. But I think if you have a great meeting, I think anything's possible. But at the end of the day, hard for me to answer that because the only one who really knows if he wants to re-sign here is Sherratt. And he hasn't told me, so I don't know.
And it would take another team who only wanted him as a rental, too.
Stu, the last one for the day. Pascal Thibault, what are the chances Jonathan Drouin is traded this year?
None. He's coming. He's wrist injury. He's not playing right now. He won't be back long enough before the trade deadline to prove that he's 100% healthy. If they do trade Jonathan Drouin, I think it would be in the summer or at next year's trade deadline when he's eligible to become a free agent after next season.
I'll agree with that. I don't think Jonathan Drouin is going to be a Montreal Canadien after his contract is over. I don't see that happening. So that's it. We had a lot of fun. 1 hour, huh? 1 hour. Went by pretty fast, huh?
It always does, Tony. It's always fun.
It's always fun when the Canadiens are winning. A little bit of Bleu Blanc Rouge today or what? Huh? Why not?
You know what, Tony? People say it's, say I'm not, like, accuse me of being negative about the Canadiens. I write what I see. And if the team's bad, I write they're bad. It's much more fun covering a team that's winning. Trust me. The players are in a better mood. You have better answers to your questions. Life's more fun when the team is playing well. So right now they're playing well and everybody's enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. It's fun to watch. I was joking before with Ducharme, telling my friends, God, thank God I get paid to watch these games. But now it's entertainment. It's fun.
Mike Giroux, the best hockey podcast, he says. Great work, Tony, and great work, Stu. Thank you very much, Mike, for that. Have a happy Sunday, Stu. Once again, thanks so much for your time. It's always fun talking Habs with you, my man.
My pleasure, Tony. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Martin St. Louis. Louis. Oh. Have a great Sunday, everyone. Tell your friends about it. This podcast is sick.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by 8.6, Intense by Nature.